for theoretical approach development, that is the abductive, okay, abduction. You might have seen that part. So if you use inductive versus deductive in iterative manner, okay, you use the inductive and again you build a theory and test using the deductive, then that kind of thing is known as the abductive perspective or abductive approach for theory development. Okay, so basically in our context it is best suitable to use one of those approach. Okay, if you are clear or not regarding that part, so let's discuss on that part and we'll move on to the other research design part, which is the research starting. Okay, so can you please share your answer regarding the inductive and deductive that I have given to you? What are the different stages of inductive reasoning versus deductive? Okay, we receive anyone's answer. Inductive approach, sorry, as you can see, one answer we have obtained after. Let's see. Wow. Inductive approach starts with the observation and theories are proposed towards the end of the research process as a result of observation. Okay, so first there is the observation, then the tentative hypothesis, data collection, and development of the theory. That are the stages that we do. Yes, uh, stages. Okay, here we are. So proposed towards the end of the research process as the result of observation. In inductive approach, we search for the pattern for observation, and the theories are proposed after studying the pattern. In inductive approach, theory are not proposed at the beginning. Okay, so they observe, based on that observation the tentative theories are built. Okay, so the stages of inductive approach: gather the data. At first, in the inductive approach, we collect the data which is relevant to the topic of interest. Okay, data can be collected from the various method, and then you are going to second stage is the observe the pattern. After observation, you are going to formulate the tentative hypothesis or tentative theory. Okay, that is the tentative theory that you are going to propose, and you are going to analyze that theory. Okay, after that, you are going to confirm the theory. Okay, you are or build the theory. So first stage is the data collection, second stage is the observation. It is mainly included on that part. Yes, and formulation of tentative hypothesis or the theory that you have written, proposed theory. Yes, and then finally the confirmation of that theory or building of that statement. Okay, uh, so these are the steps that we use on the inductive. And the characteristics: theory are not proposed at the beginning, theory are proposed only after sufficient data is collected and analyzed. You do not know anything about the situation. Okay, you just assume certain scenario and you are not sure of that particular context. So what you do, you just observe the phenomena. Yes, observe the phenomena and collect the data, formulate the tentative hypothesis, and build a theory. That is the basic process. Whichever you do. Yes. So this is basically used on the interpretative philosophy or the in social science, whether you study about the relationship between the social actor and the social entity. In that case, mostly there is the use of this inductive approach. Okay, they are inductive approach mostly associated with the interpretism philosophy, where the theory are built after the certain phenomena is studied or observed. Okay, so that is mainly associated with inductive approach. Now moving on to the deductive. Okay, you are going to deduce a theory. Yes, you induce a theory is associated with inductive, deduce a theory is associated with deductive approach. So it starts with the theory which may or may not be a result of the inductive research. Okay, basically if it is the result of inductive research, then if you use the deductive approach to confirm that theory, okay, confirm that theory or prove that theory again, then that process is known as abductive. Okay, abductive is basically used nowadays if you iteratively use the inductive process, deductive in one research. Okay, Basically, the theory are built by in some context, and other researchers test that theory using the deductive approach. That is mainly done nowadays. But there is the possibility that you are going to build a theory in same research, and you are going to test that theory in that particular research. There might be that possibility also. Okay, so for that, two stage, inductive and deductive, commonly use on your research, that is called abductive. Okay, and uh, in deductive approach, researcher study. Okay, I'm moving on to that chart. Researchers study what others have done, reads existing theory, and test the hypotheses that appear from the theories researcher has studied. So stages starts with the theory. At first, deductive approach, we choose as an existing theory and study those theory critically. Propose a hypothesis. You are going to build a hypothesis. Okay, and you are going to collect the data and analyze the data and confirm a theory or statement. Yes. So these are basically used stage of deductive. Now, characteristics of deductive approach is it starts with the theory and the proposed hypothesis based on the theory. The hypothesis proposed before the collection of the data. Yes, before the collection of data. In inductive, it was done after the collection of data and tentative hypothesis is formulated. Yes, so these are the two extrema of approach for theory development. So our main concern is in which context or what is the best way to choose our research approach. Okay, approach for theory development. So can we discuss on that part? So what is the right choice in your context regarding your research topic? So what things guide you? Okay, since we know that inductive is building a theory and deductive is proving a theory. Okay, so while using the inductive approach, it basically uses what kind of data? It is the qualitative data. Yes, so variety of qualitative data collection method and technique are used on inductive method. So while it's in deductive, you use the quantitative data. And the main characteristics between these two, okay, main characteristics between these two are as your friend has already mentioned. Right? Apart from that, some addition I will do. Okay, so the main advantage or main characteristics that we have on deductive is generalization. Okay, if we use the deductive approach, then basically we can use or apply the generalization approach on deductive, and we cannot use generalization on inductive because theory are built on certain context or scenario. Okay, certain context or scenario. So basically generalization which happen on deductive approach, generalization does not happen on inductive approach. That generalization means if you obtain the certain result from one study or from that research, it can be implicable to the similar sample size or similar group of population on other states. Okay, other states. So that is the case. But inductive, the theory that you have built on that particular context. Okay, if it is not proved by deductive approach, it cannot be generalized. Okay, it cannot be generalized. So that is the thing. So we understand about the deductive and inductive. Okay, I think you have understand that part. So basically, our main concern is whether our research uses the deductive approach or inductive approach. Yes, that is the main concern. As you know that if we adopt the positivism philosophy, it's mostly associated with deductive approach because as a natural science, they always start with a certain theory or proving a theory or something like that. Yes, something like that. In social science, it is a building a theory. Yes, social science basically, but that is not always the case. That is not always the case, but we only focus on mainly on that part because in science they always formulate the certain statement. Yes, they have always formulate the certain statement, and they are going to prove that statement or they are going to disprove that statement. Okay, that is basically happens on positivism. So positivism philosophy, if you are going to adopt positivism philosophy on your research, then it basically support the deductive approach for theory development. And if you use the interpretism philosophy as a research, then it adopt the inductive approach for theory development. Okay, so these are the two examples. But what I say, based on your research. Okay, based on your research, you can combine the different method according to your suitability. Okay, according to your suitability. If your research does not fit completely on positivism, if it does not fit completely on positivism, some part it might lie on the interpretism also. Okay, partial lying on the interpretism also, there might be that possibility. So you can have that flavor on your research. Okay, you can add up the 80% of the positivism philosophy and 20% of the interpretism philosophy based on your analysis part or based on your research question. If you have formulated the 3 research question, among them last one is basically associated with interpretism philosophy, that you are going to obtain the opinion from your participant, or you are going to draw a conclusion from your participant. So at that time you have flexibility. At that time you have flexibility to adapt the interpretism philosophy on that particular context. Okay, so what basically guide us is the research question that you have formulated. Okay, uh, so and other thing what I'm telling, you might not totally fall on the positivism, or you might not be totally fall on the interpretism. Okay, so if you are in the middle of that too, you have the flexibility to adapt the suitable philosophy according to your need. Okay, in similar case with the approach for theory development, that is the main concern. Okay, and you need to confirm that whether you start with a statement, or you are just going to observe the statement and observe the pattern and build a theory. Okay, so that is the two things you need to be clear. Okay, that thing will be guided by your research topic and research question. Suppose you say that in digital well-being, excessive use of information technology or IT devices hamper the mental health of student. If you are if that kind of assumption is guided by the positivism philosophy, then what will be the case? You adopt the deductive approach, because by seeing the reality, you see that reality. I've explained earlier also that most of your friends are using the technology, information technology, when they are in the class, or whether they are in the playground or something like that. So you might assume that that excessive use might have hampered them. So that statement can act as a statement for your research, and you are going to prove that statement. Okay, that can be the example. So that statement does not always means that has been proved by someone else to be used in your research. You can formulate your own statement as an assumption. Okay, that is your way of doing research, and you collect the evidence for that particular statement, and you are going to confirm that statement, or you are going to disprove that statement. Okay, that you can do in both way. You are proving or disproving. You can do in both way. And inductive, you are not sure whether they affect or does not affect, or let's see what will happen. Let's formulate between the information technology and its relationship with the human beings. Let's observe that pattern and decide on certain statement. You can do in that way also, in that way. So but doing that whether they have been affected or not, if you are confirmed, in that case the interpretism philosophy mainly focus on the opinion of the participant. Okay, so at that time finding whether the mental health of a participant are being degraded or not, their participant might not be aware by themselves. So at that time it might be difficult for you. Okay, so you should be clear on which philosophical underpinnings that your research lies on, and which approach is appropriate in your context. So while preparing the proposal, okay, while preparing the proposal, suppose you say that you adopt the positivism philosophy, and you see that you adopt the deductive approach for theory development. But when you execute your research in fourth semester, okay, when you start executing your research in fourth semester, you might feel certain refinement. Okay, previously I was not sure about my research question. I think that it will adopt the positivism philosophy, but now I see that it adopt the interpretism philosophy. Okay, so at that time you have the flexibility to change that philosophical underpinnings. Okay, you have the flexibility while writing your final report. The final version should be clear, concise, and logical. Okay, the final version of your report should be clear, concise, and logical, which you need to focus on that part. Okay, in proposal, if there is certain misunderstanding that lies also, that can be considerable, but while you prepare your final report, it should be all clear. Okay, it should be all clear. So are you clear regarding the inductive and deductive approach? You can start with the statement, and you can start with the observation. That is the thing. Okay, and that statement does not always mean yes.
So I'm a bit late today, so please can you discuss again inductive characteristic and deductive characteristic?
Okay, so as we have already started, you know about the deductive
So
and
stages of inductive would be observation, seeking patterns, theorizing over the patterns, right?
yes.
Similarly, stages of deductive would be with a theory, developing hypothesis from that theory, collecting, analyzing data.
And
But I'm a bit confused about characteristic of both inductive and deductive. So
so okay, we'll work. So basically in deductive, deductive, I already told you main characteristic is that it is generalizable. Deductive approach is generalizable. That means the outcome or output that you have developed by using the deductive approach can be implemented to other part of population or the other stages. Okay, so that is the thing, because simply we see that natural science which used to prove the statement, okay, statement and build that theory, that statement will be used by all other part. Yes, simply that means Ohm's law. If we say the Ohm's law, it is basically arises from positivism philosophy and deductive approach. Previously, while building that theory, okay, Ohms has formulated V equals to IR at first, and he tests that theory. Yes, he tests that theory, or he built that theory from one way or another way. Okay, we do not presumably assume that it start with the statement or it start with the, does not matter. But when you select that statement and prove that statement, okay, the result for that statement will be used by all others. Okay, that is the generalizable. It can be used by other group of population or in other aspect. Okay, in similar context, it can be used. That is the generalizable. But that inductive approach, the result of inductive approach, the theory that we have built, it is not generalizable only until and unless it is tested. Okay, so the main characteristics of deductive approach is generalization, whereas this is non-generalizable. Okay, and another is the data collection method or technique that you use on deductive approach. It basically use the quantitative data collection method. Okay, quantitative data collection method, whereas inductive use the qualitative data collection method. That is the things. Okay, and basically in deductive approach is basically use the causal relationship between the variables, or cause and effect relationship that we have discussed on previous section. Okay, cause and effect, you know that excessive use of information technology affect the mental health of a student. So that is the statement that we are going to use. So it's basically use the cause and effect relationship. Okay, but in inductive how it is look, how the social member that we call the social actor build their old or build their society. Okay, in that way the relationship between the social actor and social entity are formulated in terms of statement. Okay, it is the basic, because previously when the inductive and deductive approach has been developed, we need to move on to the education that has been delivered. Yes, we already know about their two types of science, natural science and social science. So social science as beginning, they purely focus on society. Yes, they purely focus on society. So that kind of uh, term, inductive term, has been used on that part. But later on, now moving on to the uh, according to the context. Okay, moving according to the context and the development of the research, the social science also you interpreted the philosophy or the approach that have been used on deductive, and inductive also has been used on the natural science. They are commonly used. Okay, so the main characteristic one, generalization. Second is the data collection method. Okay, that is the thing. And since in deductive it is independence of researcher, means mm, as you see it out of the positivism philosophy, and whether you are going to prove a theory or disprove a theory. Yes, this is totally based on the data that you have collected. As you see the stages of deduction, the proving of the statement or disproving of the statement is totally dependent on the collection of data. Okay, collection of data and what you obtain from that data. Okay, after analyzing, you are going to confirm that thing. So it is independence of researcher. But now in inductive, the theory that you are going to build, you are going to put you might put some opinion or perception on that particular statement. Okay, or the statement can be uh, formulated from the perception and opinion of the people under your study. That can be done. Okay, that can be done. So these are basic characteristics. Okay, of inductive and deductive. It's okay. Basically generalization, non-generalization, data collection method. Yes, and relation, that is the independence of researcher and related with the research and the participant in induction. Okay, in deduction it is independence of the researcher. That is the thing.
So deductive stays before and inductive stays after. We
Yes,
can say that. Okay.
yes. You just previous, if you know about the statement, you know about the statement. Yes, The development of the statement can be done from the inductive approach that might have done by previously in what approach, it doesn't matter. But if we start with the statement, that is the inductive approach, deductive approach. If you start with the observation, or basically from that point of view, if you are not sure what kind of statement that you have formulated, or if you are not sure what kind of relationship that exists, okay, you are not sure on that part, then at the time what you do, you just observe the pattern. Yes, observe, data collect, and formulate. Based on pattern, you formulate the tentative hypothesis. Yes, and tentative hypothesis explain in terms of participant responses. So you are going to build that theory. Okay, and other will, if other will do your research, suppose other want to prove your theory or disprove your theory, it start with the statement that you have developed from your inductive reasoning. Yes, and that approach is called the deductive again. Okay, so basically let's see, with your title. Okay, if just an example, IIT based automatic vehicle. Okay, what you can do, we basically we are going to test the statement. Basically we are going to test, you know, that IIT helps in automatic ways. You assume that, you have seen that, but what you do not have, you do not have evidence to prove that statement in the context of Kathmandu or Nepal. Yes, that is the case. Yes or no? So what you need to do, you need to first formulate a tentative hypothesis on that particular path. IIT IIT helps on effective formulation of automatic vehicle or something like that. Okay, what you do. So you know that IIT helps on automatic vehicles. What you do not have, just the statement. But if the case, okay, if the case is was there has been technology that has been developed on IIT, but it is not implemented on any of those applications. So at that time, you are not sure whether the IIT will be helpful on that particular application or not. It is not sure. Okay, it is not sure. So at that time, what you can do, you can start with deductive also. You can start with the statement. Okay, also, but you can start with the deductive also. At that time, you have the flexibility. Okay, you have the flexibility to start with inductive, you have the flexibility to start with the deductive. If you are strongly agree on the statement, you start with the deductive. Okay, and if you do not know, and if you want to find the relationship between these two and formulate certain theory behind that, then that is the inductive. You can do in both way. Okay, but basically we start as a science student, we starts with the deductive approach, basic practice. Okay, it is not just the always case, but in any context you can formulate, because that thing already been used and tested in one context. Yes, it has been applied on automatic vehicles. We know that it is applicable on that particular context. Yes or no? At first only it has been used using inductive approach. Whether they are applicable or not, they are not sure on that part. First, when the IoT devices or IoT technology has been developed, and when that are being used on particular application, they are not sure whether that is applicable or not. So for first time there might be the inductive approach used by that particular set of application, and after the IoT device has been used on that particular set, okay, particular set, it has been using the deductive approach. Okay,
Okay, sir.
explanation, inductive. If you want to find explanation on that particular context, okay, this explanation means certain statement that you are going to formulate. Yes, the use of IIT has been highly effective on that particular context. If you start from the certain observation, you can do just testing. You know that IIT has been applicable. Just test whether the true or false, or prove or disprove. Just the evidence will show whether the statement that you have formulated is true or false or something like that. That is deductive. Simply that. Okay. So let's move on to the other slide. Okay. So in this week, I think your assignment will be released. Okay, uh, because I have tentatively planned to complete this theoretical aspect in this week, because we have completed about 20 to 21 hours for our theoretical part, and we have already been on chapter 4th, which is the methodology chapter. Yes, and half of the methodology chapter has been completed on the previous part also. What you need to write on your methodology chapter, it has been completed. So I am giving certain brief overview about the research onion part, that is the research strategy and choice of method that you are going to use on your research, okay, whichever is suitable. So basically we are understanding that research onion on it deeply. Okay, for that reason I have used this chapter. Basically this much explanation might not be necessary in your context, but also it will provide you the basis insight, what kind of what strategy is suitable in your context, what is the methodological choice for your research, and something like that. You might be clear on that part. Okay, so for that reason I'm using this slide, okay, slide of Pearson, and you should focus on writing that methodology chapter. Okay, this is the planning proposal. So basically I have planned in this week. If it is not complete, we'll move on, we can move on the next week also. Okay, one or two class on the next week, and the college will provide eventually, might be we'll discuss about 1 or 2 1.5 months for you to submit the proposal, I think. And before the submission of the proposal, okay, before the submission of the proposal, you have to prepare your presentation. Okay, and I will discuss with the coordinator Niranjan sir in what way we need to deliver that presentation. Okay, if that is the individual presentation, then we will again start the class and do the individual presentation. Okay, for that you have to, or you all have to complete your proposal. Okay, whether it might be possible for you or not in that context. Okay, and if not, then those who cannot attain that presentation, they have to send their presentation on their recording. Okay, you have to do that way. So, and in that presentation I already mentioned that I will give you feedback regarding the certain aspect of the research that you encounter, and again you can revise and submit on the final date. Okay, so before the submission date, before 1 or 2 weeks before the submission date, we will discuss that part. Okay, we'll discuss, and your um, class representative CR will coordinate with me, and we can execute that class. Okay, your CRs need to coordinate, because you need to complete your proposal, you need to complete your presentation and ready for that presentation. After that we need to start the presentation. If college will decide to take the individual presentation, we'll start on that way. Okay, so that presentation will be dependent on the college, and I will inform you in what format that you need to present. Okay, whether it is recording or whether it is live. Okay, I will inform you that, but you need to prepare the proposal and presentation. Okay, so let's start with uh, research design. Okay, this onion, as you can see, this onion, the inner part. Now we are moving on to the inner layer. Yes, we have completed the philosophy, we have completed the approach, and we are now moving on to the strategy, methodological choice, time horizon, and technique and data procedure. We have already discussed this part briefly on the previous classes also. Yes, you might aware of that thing also. So any confusion regarding the philosophy and approach, if you have any confusion you can ask me. Okay, whether I am able to clarify you or not, I'm not sure. If you give me feedback regarding that part, then again we can discuss. Okay, I will come with certain example, because uh, as we see, I have also used the deductive approach in most of my researches. Okay, because in science, IT, engineering, it mostly the deductive, because there is the certain statement that you are going to prove through your evidence. Yes, and so I have the less experience using the inductive. Okay, less experience using the inductive. So
So,
yes.
so pragmatism.
Okay, so pragmatism basically focus on what thing is, whatever suitable research strategy or suitable philosophy is applicable in your research, you are going to use that. Means it basically associated with action type of research. Okay, it is basically research associated action type of research. Means whichever is suitable in this context. Okay, suppose uh, nowadays what the scientists are doing, they are researching on building the COVID-19 vaccine against the different variant of the coronavirus. Okay, so in that particular context, whichever method is suitable, whichever method is or philosophy is be suitable in that particular context, okay, action type of research it is, whichever is suitable, they will adopt that philosophy. Suppose they need to add a positivism in one context, and eventually in other part of the research they might adopt the interpretism philosophy or something like that. Whatever suitable in their context, they have flexibility to use that. That is the main beauty of pragmatism. Okay, so sorry, that is the thing. So in other way you can understand, whichever suitable philosophy is applicable on that particular context, the researcher has flexibilities to adapt that. But in other also it adapt, but based on that result, okay, focusing on the result or outcome of that research that is applicable after it is uh, completed, or after it the outcome of the research is generated for that particular context. Are you clear on that part?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And realism, if you are again confused with the realism, then realism basically focus on what your five sense can perceive the world or nature, then that will be act as a truth or reality for your research, okay, for you and for your research. Whatever things that you can observe and measure using your five sense, okay, that means the sight, touch, sense, smell, and hearing. Okay, that five sense, whatever that five sense can perceive, that can be act as a truth. That is basically rarely used in our context. Okay, we mainly focus on using the other part. We mainly focused on using the positivism and interpretism, and in other contexts, okay, it is a flavor of philosophy that most of them are using. Okay, uh, it is not always possible to justify that philosophy in our context. Okay, realism is I really do not find more example of realism. So pragmatism, are you clear? Whichever is suitable in your context, most important is used. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so let's move on to the research design. So now moving on to the third layer, which is the strategy. Okay, the third layer, which is the strategy, means overall plan that you are going to use to answer your research question or achieve your research objective. Okay, so basically that strategy will be guided by the philosophy and approach for theory development that you have adopted on the previous layer of the onion. Okay, and whatever it is, if you choose the positivism philosophy and deductive approach, and if you are clear on the choice of the method, okay, if you are clear before moving on to the strategy, if you are clear on the choice of method, then it will be easy for you what strategy is suitable in your context. Okay, and you can go from up to down also, but if you are clear means you can it is easy to know the choice of method than to know the strategy. Okay, because whether it is quantitative research or whether it is qualitative research, that will be formulated, that will be guided by your research question. Yes, that will be guided because your research question basically focus on collection of quantitative data. uh, then it is the mono method quantitative. Okay, if your research focus on the qualitative data, it must be mono method qualitative. Okay, if your research focus on collection of both, then you are going to use the mixed method, that is mixed method, quantitative and qualitative. And if you are using more than once, okay, more than one times qualitative and or more than once quantitative, then that is called the multi method. Okay, so that thing you need to be, you are clear before the strategy. If you are unaware of your strategy, um, your research question help you to choose the particular research method. Okay, suppose you adopt the positivism philosophy deductive approach, and that is mostly associated with quantitative research method. Yes, and experiment and survey strategy are exclusively associated with quantitative research method. Why? Because what we do on experiment and what we do on survey, okay, they basically collect the quantitative data, okay, analyze the quantitative data and draw a conclusion. And in case study it can be associated with the quantitative and qualitative, any of those, because it is dependent on the case. Yes, it is dependent on case what kind of data you are going to generate. And to explain the methodological choice for a case study is really difficult, because it is not generalizable, and it is used on particular case. There might be the single case and there might be the multiple case. Okay, there might be the multiple case. And the action research, grounded theory, ethnography and archival research, they are mostly associated with the qualitative research method. Okay, they are going to use with qualitative, because the result that they are going to obtain, okay, they are basically from the qualitative data. Okay, certain explanation, interpretation and narrative story are used on that particular research strategy. Okay, and basically we are going to study about the experience survey case study. Okay, and we'll discuss other also. We will have brief idea on action research, grounded theory, ethnography and archival research. Okay, that we discuss. But based on your research question, okay, you have to formulate based on your research question. You need to be clear on choice of method, whether it is quantitative, whether it is qualitative. Okay, previously there was no any distinction or no any flexibility to move on different variety of philosophy, different variety of approach and so on. But nowadays research add up. Okay, research add up according to the need of research. Okay, according to the need of research means they have the flexibility, they have they more away focus on the pragmatism. Okay, the philosophy are more away moving on to the pragmatism. Most suitable thing for that particular research context is used. Okay, if your research is associated 50% of the positivism, if you are sure on that part, then you have the flexibility to use the partially the interpretism philosophy or realism philosophy. That is your choice. Okay, and if you are going to use the deductive and inductive in same theory, same research, then you have the flexibility on that, which is called abductive nowadays. Yes, and in experiment also you can use the more than one strategy based on your need. Okay, strategy is just the plan that how you are going to achieve your research objective or the answer your research question. So it is not always to say that you can use the single strategy for that particular context. You have that flexibility, and choice also the same things, and other part also is the same. But what you need to do, you need to provide the logical explanation or coherence or the as you say, the informed design choice for that particular context. Okay, so moving on to the research design need, what we need, focus on, we need to have the clear objective derived from the research question. We should have the clear objective, okay, derived from the research question, to specify the source of data collection, okay, from where you are going to collect your data, to consider the constraint and ethical issue. Is there any constraint that is associated with time, cost, access to the data, or something? Valid reason for your choice of design. That means the logical explanation why you choose that particular method or why you choose that particular strategy in your context. Okay, you have to provide that thing. So classification of research proposed that we have already discussed. I think there are three nature. Okay, basically I'm moving this a bit fast. Exploratory, descriptive and explanatory. In exploratory, what you do, you are going to just explore what the research is trying to find. If you answer the research question regarding the what, then it is exploratory in nature. Okay, and descriptive study, in descriptive study you provide a certain description of that phenomenon or the variables that you find on exploratory research. Okay, suppose you say that 80% of the students are being affected by excessive use of technology, then that is the exploratory research. Okay, and if you describe how they are affected or how they are being affected by the excessive use of technology, then that kind of questions will be associated with a descriptive study or descriptive nature of research. Okay, you are going to describe the relationship between the phenomena, and explanatory, you are going to find the reason why is that. Okay, explanatory, then that will explain the relationship between the variables. Okay, so these are the nature of your research purpose, and based on your research purpose, you are going to choose the research strategy. Now basically the research studies are experiment, okay, action research, grounded theory, ethnography, survey, case study, and archival research. So moving on the experiment, okay, what we do on experiment, the definition, this is the definition of the theoretical hypothesis that we have discussed on deductive approach. Okay, deductive approach, basically the testing of that statement is done using the experiment strategy, because it is mostly favorable. Yes, if you have this statement, you need to adopt this experiment strategy, because it helps you to find the relationship between the variables that are used in a research, or you are going to explain, or you are going to find the cause between the different variables that are involved on your study. Okay, we'll discuss that part. Suppose in previous example, as we say, effect of excessive use of technology versus mental health of student. If you are going to find on that thing, then you can add up the experiment strategy, because you can take the certain sample from your known population, that is the known population means your class. Okay, and you are going to do the experiment on that part. Okay, while doing the experiment, you need to think of three variables. Okay, you need to think of three variables, that is the dependent variables, independent variables, and control variables. Means the dependent variables. Okay, dependent variables means the variables which is recorded after there is change on independent variables. Example, excessive use of technology and effect on mental health. So effect of mental health is the dependent variables, and excessive use of technology is the independent variable, because you can change what you can change the duration of time student involved on the technology. You can change that part. Yes, you can change, or you can vary the time duration that student or your friend they involve on the information technology. So the parameter or variables that which you can vary, that is called the independent variables. And while varying that independent variables, there causes the certain effect on dependent variables. Okay, in our case, excessive use of technology versus the mental health, you are going to vary the duration of time, and you are going to record that effect on mental health. That is the dependent variable. Yes, that is the cause and effect relationship. Okay, so and that we mainly don't do using the experiment strategy. Okay, because you know that I formulated the statement, and to test that statement, I can use the experiment strategy. Okay, that is the one strategy. Same context can be used using the survey also, but it's most suitable to use the experiment, because to do the research and find the relationship between the two variables or more variables, then experiment is the best suitable strategy. But you need to be confirmed what are the variables of my research. You need to be confirmed on that part. Okay, and what is the dependent variable and what is the independent variable, and control of other variables are the control variables. Okay, you need to control the certain thing while examining the relationship between the excessive use of technology and mental health. Means the environment that you put, okay, the environment that you put the sample should be ideal. Means there should not be any other parameter that will disturb their mental health. Okay, there should be the clear relationship between the excessive use of technology and their mental health. Okay, that is the control parameter. Other things need to be controlled to measure the relationship between these two variables. Okay, as you see in lab also, the temperature control, other control that are done, yes, on standard environment or something like that, that are the control variables. Okay, that is the thing. So clear on this research strategy experiment. Just a brief overview. Okay, and no need to move deeply on this part. If you understand the basic also, it will be easy for you. Okay, just focusing on that part. If you are going to find the relationship between two or more variables, then you use the experiment. Simply that. If you have question, you can ask me. Okay, now moving on to the survey. So you have used the survey, yes, in most of your research project, computing project also. You have used the survey as a research strategy, because you have move on to the organization. You have gone to go to organization, collect the data from individual or the other member of the organization. Yes, you have used the survey strategy in your project. Yes, in your project, I think you have used the survey strategy, because it is popular in business, is perceived as authoritative, that it is eventually valid on your context also. Allows the collection of quantitative data. Experiment also allows the collection of quantitative data. Okay, data can be analyzed quantitatively. Samples need to be representative, and gives the researcher independence. Means you are going to draw a conclusion without putting your opinion or perception. Structured observation and interview can be used. So you have also done same thing. I think you have prepared the set of questionnaire, and you have gone to the organization, asked the individual to give response on that particular set of questions that you have prepared. Yes. So any confusion on this part? I'm moving a bit fast for this part, because we need to cover other also. If you do not understand, we'll move slowly, or if you are comfortable, I'll move a bit fast for this part. Okay. Any confusion in this part? Survey. So case study is the risk. It provides the rich understanding of a real life context. So while using the case study in your research, it basically focus on one context, one phenomenon under that study. Okay, and it is not affected by other environment, and you are solely going to study that phenomena or context on that particular environment only. Okay, that environment, because you are not going to use the sampling method or something like that in that case study. There might be that possibility, because there is only one case that might be using on your research, or there might be the multiple case. But what I say, it is not generalizable in most of the case. Okay, it's a case means specific to that particular phenomena or particular context. Okay, so that is the basically we use. If you are going to study that the nutrition level on Jumla or certain community of Jumla or Jajakot or something like that, then it is related with the case study, because that is particularly associated with that context. Okay, and uses and triangulate multiple sources of data while using the case, because you can use multiple data in your context, because you are going to analyze that context. You can use the qualitative data, you can use the quantitative data, you can use the primary data, you can use the secondary data. Whatever is necessary in your context, you are going to use. But main disadvantage of case study is the justification for methodological choice, and the generalization. Okay, that is not possible. So action research involves the practitioner in the research. The researcher becomes the part of the organization, promotes change. So basically, what the action research means nowadays, if organization think that, okay, there should be two things while doing the action research. Okay, implementation of organizational change on in an institution, or organizational change in an institution. If certain thing like that, then what will be the effect of the research outcome on that particular context. Okay, the outcome of the research will be immediately applicable for that particular context. In previous researches, the outcome might be applicable immediately after the research has been completed, or that might not be possible. But in action research, what is possible? The output or the result that has been obtained from the research will be immediately applicable. Okay, immediately applicable. That is the case. So this the development of the coronavirus vaccine. That is the one example of action research. Okay, and there is the two distinct focus, as you showed, the research and the need of the sponsor. Okay, somebody has to sponsor that research, because the outcome or the result of the research will be immediately applicable on that particular context or scenario. Grounded theory is built through the induction and deduction. Means basically, if you move on to the society or the core ethnical value, okay, and collect the data from that group of population and generate the theory, then that is called the grounded theory. Okay, and it is developed from the data generated by observation. It's the purely interpretism philosophy and uses the deductive approach. Okay, and that deduction, basically you see the deduction to prove that theory that has been generated from that um, scenario or context. Okay, it is the purely in interpretative. Okay, that is the thing. And ethnography aims to describe and explain the social world inhabited by the researcher. So as a researcher, you play the part on that research. Okay, you are the part of the research. Previously, what will happen? You are not part of the research. You just basically observe or collect the data. Based on that collection of data, you draw a conclusion. But in ethnography, you as a part of the research, you can take part as a research. That means you are going to put your opinion or perception on that particular context. Okay, so basically ethnography that is also associated with the social science. Okay, and archival research uses the administrative record and documents as the principal source of data, allows research question focus on the past. Means some historical data. If you are going to do research on some historical data or history, then it basically implicable to use the archival research, because you do not have the primary data to collect it from the source of information. You focus on the record and document, which is the particular source of data, principal source of data set. Allows research question focused on the past and is constrained by the nature of the record and document. Whatever information that is presented on that document or report, you should basically rely on that part to draw a conclusion. So there is certain constraint, there might be certain constraint. Okay, so the role of practitioner or researcher is the research access is more easily available. The we practitioner mainly focus on action research. Okay, action research, and we are the researcher. Basically, we need to identify ourselves as a researcher. Okay, research access is more easily available. The researcher know the organization that has the disadvantage of family. These are the role that we are going to apply in the context when you work as a part of the research team in an organization or other. Okay, since we are doing the academic research, basically we focus on other part rather than this. Okay, so choice of method, basically there are research strategy I have completed a little bit fast. Please study by yourself, and if you have any confusion you can ask me. Okay, if you have any confusion you can ask me, because the more important part we are coming to know. Okay, uh, if you have any questions, okay, you can ask me now or you can ask me on next class. If you are feeling a bit comfortable, then we can stop here today and we'll start this research choice on next class.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So grounded theory. So one time, please.
Okay. uh, Grounded theory means, suppose you are studying the certain phenomena in a society. Okay, certain phenomena in a society, but what you do, you just observe the pattern. Means suppose how the children on slum are doing their daily life, or how they are behaving or something like that. Okay, how the lifestyle of the children on slum or something like that. If that is the topic, then what you need to do, you need to observe the behavior. Yes, you need to observe the behavior and you are going to build a theory from that. Yes, from that core level you are going to observe the pattern. Yes, you are going to collect the data from different source of information, and you are going to build a theory from that particular context only. Okay, that's from or something like that, in particular ethnical group of the society. If you are working on that part, it is basically focused on the grounded theory. Okay, you basically focus on observation, how the people are behaving in the society, or based on your research question. Basically it is on the research question or the curiosity that you have, what you are trying to explore. Okay, suppose lifestyle of children on slum, if that is the case, or lifestyle of children on child age care, that might be the one thing. Okay, or something like that. What you do, you are not going to ask the question to the children in that particular context. What you need to do, you are going to observe the phenomena. Yes, simply you are going to observe the phenomena. And while observation, just saying that observation, it does not mean you blindly observe. You have the set of criteria, which is parameter that you are going to observe. Suppose the eating habit, that may be the one parameter. A sleeping pattern, that may be the other. okay, and the education level or their learning habit. This might be the different parameter that you can observe, okay, and there is different duration of time in a day that can the children can spend their time on that particular criteria that you have selected, okay, and based on that criteria you observe the pattern and develop a theory whether the lifestyle of that particular slum children is good or bad or something like that from that particular context. That is the case, okay. You are going to explain that part, okay, Rahul.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the strategy that basically rely on the theoretical part and lack of example. Okay, this is lack of example because we can only explain this part, but the real context environment is difficult for me also, and I cannot find some on books also because most of the researcher most of the research that you focus mainly on the pure science. I already mentioned that part, and they do not basically focus on this kind of thing. Yes, so we are studying the generic part which can be applicable to any dimension of education, whether it is a business, whether it is a management, whether it is a science, or so on. So we have obtained this kind of thing, okay, and whichever is suitable you can use. And basically we use the experiment, survey, and case study. Okay, these three in our context. In our context, I'm basically focusing in academic research. Okay, so
So,
we'll yes.
so can you give some of the example research where we can use grounded theory?
Yes, I've already given example. If you are sorry, if you are going to use if you are going to apply the ground effect in terms of slum, lifestyle of children on slum, or the perception of children that are born on or grown on slum. If you are going to find or explain some phenomenon on that particular context, then that is the grounded theory. It has a variety. What it means, what simply means, if you just observe, okay, in any parameter you can use, but what it mainly focus on observation. Purely inductive reasoning has been used on grounded theory. That is the case. You can use in any context. If you start with the observation, finding some pattern and describe the phenomena, then basically that kind of strategy is called the grounded theory. Basically, that is the case. Purely
Okay,
inductive
sir.
in any context, okay, you can apply that strategy is just the plan, okay. It can I'm just focusing, it can be applicable, but other researcher might argue that in that context other strategy might be applicable, okay. So whenever you observe the pattern and finding the behavior, okay, you are going to study the behavior. What you are going to study? Behavior of that particular social member or the society or any others, okay. That might be anything, and purely observation lead to the explanation of that phenomena, then that is called the that strategy applicable. That strategy that we have apply is called the grounded theory. That is the case. Okay, are you clear on this part? Whether I can make you clear or not, okay. If not, then again we'll discuss on tomorrow, okay.
Yes, sir.
Basically what is means example means it whether it is applicable on that particular context or not, okay. And we can basically say that if some of the research that has been that uses the grounded theory only we can give that example bit, but in other research we only can predict. Yes, other research only we can predict. Suppose the title that I have selected, lifestyle of slum children, then that is just the prediction. I'm not sure whether the theory will be applicable or not, but what I assume, it is the plan before the execution of research. Yes, I assume that it is related with the grounded theory strategy. Means what I need to add up, what I need to do, I need to observe. What I need to observe, I need to observe the behavior based on the criteria or parameter that I've set, and based on that observation, I need to come to a conclusion. That I'm sure. That is the strategy. That is the plan. That is the step that you need to take. Okay, simply the strategy means on that. Yes. Suppose you say the survey, then what you need to do? First, you need to be sure on the collection of data source from where you are going to collect the data. Secondly, you need to prepare the set of questionnaire. Second stage, if you choose the survey strategy, what you need to do, you need to choose the questionnaire as the data collection method. Yes, and simply what you need to do third is you are going to in which mechanism that is applicable to collect the data, means administering the questionnaire, whether you are going to move to the person asked you the question or something like that. There you need to choose the administering the questionnaire method. So in this way we need to use study is just the step that you need to apply in your research, in your
Yes,
context.
sir.
You need to be clear on that part. Okay, so moving I need to take attendance now from this Google Sheet. Okay, I'll please 2 minutes. I need to take your 2 minutes time. Okay, Ayushma, Bobin, Vivesh, Vigita,
Yes, sir.
Dawa, Dipendra, Ganesh, Ganesh.
Present, sir.
Do not message me. Okay, do not message me. I'm not right now to see your message. Please, only technical problem you can ask. Otherwise,
Sir.
you need to. Jenis Karki,
Present, sir. Present.
Prison Pokhrel, Madhav Acharya, Meghant,
Present, sir.
Nishal Sai, Nishal Sai, Om
Yes,
Koirala,
sir.
Om, Rahul,
Yes, sir. Present, sir.
Nishal Sai present or absent?
So I don't know, sir, Nisal Sai, but Krijan Pokhrel is present, sir.
Om Koirala, Rahul present. Raksha,
Present, sir.
Samarpan, Smriti,
Present, sir.
Soil,
Sir, Krijan Pokhrel present, eh?
present छ ठिक छ सोयल अब अहिले कलेजले यही सिटमै एटेन्डेन्स गर्नु भने भएर फेरि मलाई यो प्रब्लम हो कि नत्र त अर्को सिटले काम गरिरहेको थियो है सृजन ढकाल आई नो सोयल
Yes,
होरारी
sir.
आर प्रेजेन्ट बट दे आर नट सेइङ एन्जिलामा
Sir, Aisma Shrestha present.
ओके
Sir,
Sir,
Srijan
Vivek
present.
Kondume present.
आशिष कम्पी
Yes, sir.
अपेक्षा सिक्ने
Present, sir.
अविरल पौडेल
Present, sir.
सिना विवेक
Present, sir.
विशाल
Present, sir.
चन्दन
Yes, sir.
साइरस
Sir, Belina present, eh?
साइरस
Sir, Muna Barwal present.
त्यसले धेरै नै टाइम लिनु भयो है ओके अरूको म यही डाउनलोड हेरेर प्रेजेन्ट गरिदिन्छु है आजलाई भ्याइन सो दिस मिटिङ एन्ड कन्टिन्यू टुमोरो ओके अरूको म यही डाउनलोड सिट छ म त्यही हेरेर गरिदिन्छु है